She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We are very blessed that you decided to join us. Today we are going to talk about, yes, that wonderful topic that maybe you run from or that you actually want more information on. That's money. Do you really mean, and did you really mean, when you exchange vows, if you have exchanged vows with another person, for richer and for poorer, until death do us part? Well, according to some statistics, when people gave that vow, they certainly did not mean it. It seems that people are stressed about money, and it is having a negative effect in marriage. In fact, CNBC reported that finances are the leading cause of stress in relationships. The American Psychological Association found that almost 3/4 of Americans are experiencing some level of financial stress, and nearly 1/4 of Americans are feeling extreme financial stress. Is that you? If it is, today was the right day that you decided to join us here on the Dani Johnson Show, because we're going to help you in this area. If you are under stress financially or extreme stress financially, we want to help bring you some tips, some ideas, some strategies that actually get results. Not just some fancy fun stuff that sounds good, but I'm talking about stuff that actually works. And we're actually also going to be having joining us some callers from Facebook. We made a post on Facebook asking people what they do. Is it budgeting? Do they wing it? Does it cause stress in their, does family finances cause stress, and how are they fixing it? So it's not just going to be hearing from me, but you're going to be hearing from some other amazing people who have decided to join in on the conversation. And by the way, if you haven't joined us on Facebook yet, you probably should. You're talking about over 400,000 incredible people, not all of them, but most of them, most of the time, each and every day, we have just incredible conversation that is taking place on that Facebook page. Again, it's Dani Johnson Live, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Dani Johnson Live, and engage in the conversation. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your tips and ideas. Or if you're struggling in an area, we would love to be able to help you in any way that we can. So money, it doesn't have to be a source of stress and contention in your relationships. It doesn't have to be. There were times in my relationship with my husband where it absolutely was. And you know what? It was in the early days when there wasn't enough. After I made my first million, I got embezzled. That was awesome. It was an amazing experience. After that, then we made too much money, and we fought about having too much money. We fought about where to put that money. We didn't agree on everything concerning debt and things of that nature. But there were seasons where we've had incredible agreement and our finances were blessed. But we've gone through the gamut of not enough to too much, and too much kind of taken away with one of us, where our focus was just too much money, 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 money. And actually, both of us went through that season. We absolutely did, where greed was the main leading idol in our house. And it was destroying us individually, like as a person individually, and then as a couple. So we're going to talk about that today. So how does money have a role in your life? How is it affecting your relationships? We're going on the phones. We've got Paul Graber from Indiana. Paul, what has money caused stress in your life? And if it has, how have you fixed it?
Hi, Dani.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yes.
I've got a terrible echo on here, but I'll try to do my best.
You sound fabulous on this side.
Thank you. I'll have to say, Dani, that money hasn't necessarily caused stress, but my inability to deal with it or know how to deal with it or discuss it the way adults should, I think, has caused me a lot of stress in the past.
Gotcha. Boy, you know what? That is so perfectly said, because we're not victims from money, whether it's a lack of or too much, right? Money is not the problem. It's what you said. It was absolutely perfect. And that is the inability to communicate at an adult level about money. Why, Paul?
Yeah.
What was the barrier there? Why was there an inability to be able to talk about money?
Control mentality for me, in a way.
What did that look like? What did that look like in your marriage?
Well, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened that ties into the money situation.
Mm-hmm.
Used to, my wife and I have been married for 23 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We did go into it for life. absolutely nothing else but for life.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, over the years, we had some moderate success in finances, and then we also had some downturns, and it was just simply a fact of me thinking I was a leader when in reality I was more controlling. And then we got to a really crazy part of our life in 2012 where 2010 we got foreclosed on. In 2012 I got into trouble and got locked up for a total of over 2.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
God tested me in the most dear area in my life, and that was my family.
Wow.
Where I was literally jerked away from them.
Wow.
By force.
Wow.
Put into a completely unfamiliar environment.
Yes.
Where I had a whole bunch of time on my hands to read and write and think and meditate.
Yes.
And I did that.
That's awesome. And that's very healing, isn't it?
It is. I've seen some of the most amazing, things as far as seeing God move in my life.
Yes.
But here's what I noticed. Once I was out of the way, my wife actually grew and blossomed and became the beautiful creature that God meant her to be.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
But the one thing we agreed on from the get-go is that we're going to, she chose to stick with me. Mm-hmm. I chose to stick with her. Mm-hmm. And it has drawn us closer. And in 2013, God showed me a verse, led me to a verse that's very near and dear to my heart. It's Leviticus 25:10, where he says, and let every man be restored to his property, and let every man be restored to his family.
Yep, the Jubilee.
And my understanding is that we're in the year of Jubilee right now.
Yes, we are. We are.
Ironically, I turned 50 in December as the Jubilee began.
Yeah.
And we just got done moving into a quite reduced, not so much reduced floor space, but a lot less of everything. We got rid of a lot of stuff. And
how does that feel? How does that feel to simplify?
You talk a lot about doing cleanses. That's actually what this was.
Absolutely. This was a liver cleanse, a colon cleanse, a brain cleanse, and it was a whole body cleanse.
So we don't know for sure how it's all going to play out because there's some things that aren't finished yet. But to be conservative, I can say that we've reduced our debt by at least $100,000.
Wow!
Just by and also we've worked on paying some smaller debts and stuff, and we've been involved in War on Debt, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yay!
And then we use and this is something we started multiple times, obviously, and got sidetracked. But now we've gotten better at it.
That's
we use an envelope system. Where we do a percentage.
Yep.
You can divide it up in as many envelopes as you want, but you just have to end up with 100% by the time you're done. and it works very well. And today there's the housing envelope, there's a tithing, there's a fund, there's a vehicle, money for a vehicle. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do, but I think I'm very blessed. I know I'm blessed because you know what? My wife, whether she wants to go tithe somewhere or whether I do or whatever it is, we don't just go take money out of that envelope and go do it without bouncing it off of each other.
Yeah.
That's something we have agreed on. It's just a mutual understanding.
Yes, which is right and healthy for the marriage. Paul, I just have to tell you how grateful I am for how transparent you are and to share the struggles that you guys had and then to see you on the other side and knowing that there's going to be struggles still ahead and you know what comes after the struggle. But I want to focus in on this because there were times in my relationship with my husband where I felt that he was controlling because he didn't want to talk about it. Because he was like, no, I got it covered. Don't worry about it. I got it covered. And where I'm one of those, I like to ask a lot of questions. I want to know, how exactly is it covered? Will you please share that with me? And we both had to work through that and learn how to communicate together financially and be comfortable with each other's answers also. You know, because in the early days, I would just get mad. I know that's so hard to believe. I would just get mad. And I would even go, you're a dictator. Like, what are you hiding? Why won't you talk about it? And, you know, there obviously was issues as to how I was communicating with him that was provoking him to just dig his heels in the ground and say, I don't want to talk about it, which was not helpful. So, but it is really super important, in my opinion, to become a champion financially. And how do you do that? You do that through self-discipline. You do that through having a plan that works, that is proven, and that gets results. You do that by also teamwork. You know, a champion isn't a champion all by themselves, but we're married, right? The household, it's until death do us part, and it is, you know, for better or for worse, which you and your wife have gone through. My husband and I have gone through, and when you make that decision, like, hey, we're not leaving, we're staying, so we got to work this stuff out, and as champions, as we're going to win in this marriage, as we're going to win financially, we're going to win this race, we're going to get that prize, we have to choose to consider how the other person is perceiving us. We have to choose to look inside of ourselves, to look inside of our own hearts and say, is there a better way I could be handling this? You know, am I communicating it clearly? Is my heart being understood? Or am I coming from a place of feeling like I'm rejected before I even get started? Or am I insecure in this area? And is that causing me to overcompensate, you know, in the conversation? So it's a really awesome thing to see you and your wife as a couple. And I relate to it so much because Hans and I have certainly, come on, we've been together since he was 18. I was 22. I was already a businesswoman by the time I met him. I'd already started my second and third company by the time I met him. I had already been making all kinds of money. I'd already had a huge business failure. I already had a marriage failure by the time I met him. So we had just a severe baggage, like insane baggage that we both brought to the table, and those insecurities absolutely filtered into our financial relationship. This is Dani Johnson. We're going to continue the conversation about marriage and money right after this.
There's a mindset in our culture about money that is ruining marriages every single day. Is it ruining yours? Find out next on The Dani Johnson Show. Did you know you can take The Dani Johnson Show with you wherever you go? It's never been easier to stay up to date with the latest content from Dani with the DaniJohnson.com app. Watch or listen in the car, at the gym, or on the go. Download it now from the App Store and Google Play and never miss a show again. Your family, business, and bank account will thank you.
Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what families are dealing with in the poverty-stricken village of Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic food, water, and housing needs. We are transforming that village. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation to Santa Pancha. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
More resources, more training, more results. The DaniJohnson.com Insider membership is your ultimate success shortcut. Get exclusive access to reports, videos, audios, ebooks, cheat sheets, and other training for your personal and professional life. This is truly DaniJohnson.com's best kept secret. Become an Insider member today and get on the fast track to success.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Dani, just, we fight all the time about money. So if we don't talk about money, we don't fight. Do you really think that that is the smartest and most successful way to deal with your spouse? And if you're single people have the same exact plan, by the way, that if I ignore my finances, then I won't be stressed out. No, that is not going to make the problem go away. Check this out. American Express survey was done, and they found that 43% of the general population talks about money before marriage. Newsflash, friend, not ignoring money and ignoring the conversation about money is not going to make the problem go away. We have to learn to grow up. If you want to succeed in marriage and with your finances, and you want to succeed as a person financially, you cannot ignore the money problem. You can't ignore the bills that are coming in. You can't, just send a voicemail when you know a bill collector is calling. You can't just take the envelope of your bills and just stuff them on top of the refrigerator this month and next month in your underwear drawer and the following month in the shampoo, not the shampoo, the cabinet in your bathroom that has the shampoo that you're going to use eventually, right? No, I've seen homes like this, trust me. And then, there's some in the car, in the glove box. You got some bills in the glove box. Some have, some just go in the trash. Some fell out of the car and on the floor in the garage. All right? That's the single person and the married person when it comes to finances. You cannot ignore the money conversation. You got to hit the sucker straight on. I don't know what it is about it, but I remember when I was broke and I had this $35,000 in debt and I was failing in business, I remember just trying to ignore it. just trying to pretend. I don't see that. I'm just going to pretend like it just doesn't exist. It exists, and you got to hit it head on. You really do. You just have to just swallow it, swallow your pride, and just go, all right, I've totally messed up. What's the numbers? I don't care how big they are. I got to fix this. And once you engage in that, then you can start to make progress and absolutely sitting down and having the conversation with the spouse. So we asked a question on Facebook of some incredible clients of ours and some faithful viewers and listeners of the Dani Johnson Show daily. We asked them, so how do you and your spouse do it? Like, do you just not talk about it? Does he handle it? Does she handle it? How does it work? We're going to Natasha Reynolds from Edmonton, Canada. Natasha, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hey, Dani, thanks for having me.
Yes, it's so good to hear your voice. By the way, you and your husband have such an amazing story, first steps to success and grooming the next generation for success story that I hope you'll get the chance to share. But how do you and your husband do the financial thing?
Well, before we started plugging into DaniJohnson.com, he gave me a budget that I just used my credit cards for, and I averaged about $1,000 over every month.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
A really uncomfortable conversation to have.
Wait. So he gave you a budget, and he gave you credit cards, and you would spend $1,000 more than the budget.
Yep.
So then you guys would have to talk about it.
Yep.
Uncomfortable is not the word that describes that conversation.
It's really bad.
Did you
really bad.
Did you almost crawl into a hole?
Yes. And I could tell what he was going to talk to me about it when he was going to bring it up.
No, wait. So he would have these honeys, we need to have a talk?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so hold on. How did you feel in that moment when he would come to you and say, honey, we need to have a talk?
Like an idiot, like mad at my parents for not teaching me better, guilty.
Did you feel like a little girl that was being scolded?
Yes.
Yeah. That stinks.
Yes.
That stinks. I hate that feeling. It's the worst feeling ever. Girlfriend, $1,000 over. What in the world were you doing?
Anything I wanted.
Oh my gosh. Was there any part of you that was kind of like rebellious? Like, oh, you tell me that I can spend this? Or was it like just completely, like you were completely blind? You weren't tracking?
I was definitely not tracking.
So did you actually think you were in budget?
Probably. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been like that.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Natasha, when we continue back, I want to go back to those conversations you and your husband have. And then what changed? What changed? Like, how did you all of a sudden stop spending $1,000 over the budget? What was the absolute strategy that worked to help to mend that? And then, of course, how's the conversations today? This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more marriage and money right after this.
Stay right here for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
So 4 years ago in July, we showed up to our first Dani Johnson event, our first Steps to Success. And we were completely desperate in every area of our life. At the time, I thought it was just because of our finances, but then I figured out pretty quickly that it was because of my lack of people skills that we were where we were. We sat in the front row. We got fast track, and we sat in the front row right in the center next to some amazing people because we were so hungry, so desperate, so broken, and I pretty much cried through the entire event, honestly. And when she did the War on Debt, which she will show you, this afternoon, I went back immediately and got it. She had just started talking. I heard a couple stories, and I was like, if they can do it, I know we can do it. So we went back and got it and listened to it on the way home in the car, because we drove from Michigan all the way to Missouri. So we listened to it in the car, and when we got home, we immediately got our papers out. We wrote down our plan, and we started applying it. And within 14 months, we paid off over $62,000 worth of debt. We never in a million years thought that was possible. There's so much that has happened in the last 4 years, and I'm the person that wants the results immediately. I don't like the process of getting there. I want to just get there. But I've learned to appreciate the process over the last 4 years and just seeing the transformation that has happened in us. Personally, we individually experienced different things, and we experienced a lot of things together. I was paying our bills. I was completely disrespectful to my husband and didn't really know how bad it actually was. And so that part of our life is still improving. I can say we're a work in progress. It takes time, and we have grown so much.
We showed up. My wife, I didn't know this at the time, but she was battling thoughts of suicide. I had no idea. I thought I was being a perfectly good husband. I did my best to serve her, be a great guy. But what she needed was somebody who would step up and be a leader in our marriage. That's not who I was. And I was totally emasculated, physically emasculated by, there's someone in our church, the pastor. And so we felt the brokenness of a church, having to leave and just hurt, and devastated. One of the biggest breakthroughs started in our marriage is when Lucy started being a wife to me. And I, as a leader, I should step up, right? Take action first, be the initiator. She did it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a completely different person. And I can tell you, our marriage has just, it's amazing, the difference between her feeling suicidal, me stepping down as a leader, to me taking the initiative and just looking her in the eyes and saying, honey, thank you for allowing me to be your leader. And she just melts every time. This is awesome. So. So let me just tell you this, guys. If you're struggling, or you're broke, you're wondering what your next step is, hey, just take action. Follow those notes that you just took. Take action and do it, because your story is going to be here, and people are going to be inspired by your story. So are y'all ready to take notes? All right, let's do this. Help me welcome Miss Dani Johnson, America's favorite millionaire, to the stage.
Put the Dani Johnson Show to work for you by advertising your product or service. The Dani Johnson Show has tens of thousands of listeners who are just like you. People who need what you're offering but just don't know it yet. Savvy business owners and marketing directors advertise on The Dani Johnson Show. To promote your products and services on The Dani Johnson Show, email john@danijohnson.com or call 866-760-8255. This is The Dani Johnson Show.
Dani, it's my spouse. My spouse is the reason why we have so much debt. If my spouse didn't overspend all the time, we would not have all these financial problems. Have you ever blamed your spouse for your financial problems? Or have you been the spouse that was the reason for the financial problems? It takes two to tango, friend. Joining me right now is Natasha Reynolds from Canada. She has been a longtime faithful client, not only and listener of The Dani Johnson Show. In fact, Natasha, my goodness, how long have you been listening and watching the show?
Since 2011.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah. That's incredible. Yep. That's absolutely incredible. Okay, so you said before you tapped into DaniJohnson.com and before you guys went to First Steps and you got a hold of War on Debt as well as the entire library that I know you own, and you've been so diligent and it's been fun watching you. You used to spend $1,000 over the budget that your husband used to give you. And so you very well could have been the quote, my wife, she spends all this money. Okay, so feeling like a scolded little girl, the husband comes to you and says, we need to have a talk.
Very lovingly, but.
Yes, and he is a sweet, sweet man. He really is. Your husband is a sweet man. Okay, so what changed?
Well, we started plugging in and got War on Debt, and I figured maybe if I didn't have a credit card, if I just had my budget in cash,
yes,
in an envelope, kind of split up between different areas, that would help. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing since 2011, that's and awesome. We've paid off more than $80,000 in debt.
That's so awesome.
And the money that I have, like the cash that I have left over from the budget that he gives me each month, I put into savings.
Nice!
So, yeah. But as for the rest of it, when it came to paying bills or anything like that, if anything happened to him, I'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's incredible.
I know how to pay bills, but...
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Well, that's awesome. That's a great, simple strategy that if there's a certain amount of money that one of you is charged, responsible for spending, whether it's groceries or whatever, cash is incredible. Because, you know, you know this, and you've, you know, read the articles we've written on it, heard the shows on it, and War on Debt that teaches it, as well as our Financial Independence Debt Elimination Program. First Steps to Wealth, the book that I wrote on that, were 2 chapters on there on War on Debt, where I talk about feeding my family on $100 a week on food. And that was for 6 of us in the household, usually 7, 8, 9, several times a week throughout at the dinner table that we were feeding on $100 a week. And those are very different. That was when they were really little and even when they were teenagers. And people go, how? Well, if you only bring $100 with you, you're going to figure it out. There's a lot of things that are not going to end up in that shopping cart, really, really simply. And so it's the same exact concept that you used, Natasha. So did this help the marriage at all after you were no longer spending $1,000 over budget every month?
In that way, yes. I still, yeah.
You still what?
I don't like talking about money because I'm not a numbers person.
Mm-hmm.
So I just let him deal with it. So
Yeah.
That's why I said if anything did happen to him that he couldn't do the bill paying, then I'd probably be in trouble.
Well, then maybe it's time to sit down and say, you know what? Is there any way that you could teach me and I write a standard operating procedure that in the event that something ever happened that I needed to do it, I've got this little check register right here and I could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that you can kind of get rid of that idea. You know what I mean? Of gosh, whatever happened if. No, that you can learn it, you can do it, and it's going to be uncomfortable as it is uncomfortable learning any new thing, right? That's just life. And so, that's, and you'll feel good about yourself, Natasha. You'll feel better about yourself learning something that is challenging, that is not fit for your personality, just for the sake of the relationship, for the sake of the family, for the sake of in that rainy season, right? If something were to happen, I'm good. I could figure this out and I could do it. And you've got this nice little, what I call an SOP. You've got this little, checklist of how to do it. And then you're not freaking out in that moment if that moment ever comes. So it's always fun to learn new things. You challenge your kids every day as a homeschooling mom to learn new things. So you know what I'm saying. Natasha, thank you so much for joining and thanks for sharing that tip as well as your story. We also have Molly Pack from Pennsylvania. Molly, what's it like in your marriage financially and what do you guys do?
Hey, Dani. Thanks for having me on today.
Yes.
Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes.
With our marriage, we basically just wing it. And that's because my husband is not a salaried worker. He works by the hour. And so every single week, his paycheck is different.
Okay, hold on. How do you think that's working for you?
Well, we basically just scrape by most of the time.
So do you think that winging it is a good long-term plan?
Long term, probably not.
No.
It's just, that we haven't quite figured out how we can make it work for us yet.
Okay. Would you like to know how you can make it work for you?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. All right. So what you do is you take the lowest, worst week. Okay?
Okay.
And you make that your budget. And of the lowest work week, whatever that amount is what you pull that groceries from, the week for the rent, the electric bill. Do you understand? You pull a percentage from that. Now, the best way to do it is to force yourself to live on 70% of your income. This is something my husband has done with our family for a very long time. 70% of your income being that you choose to live on. That means all of your fun, the food, entertainment, cell phone, all of your stuff comes out of 70% of the income. So because your income fluctuates, right? And he doesn't have to stay in that situation of a fluctuating income. He could go and advance his skill and put himself in a more 40-hour work week type of a situation. He can learn whatever he has to learn to be able to get more stability in the hours in which he's being asked to work. And he could also look for a brand new career in something completely different that has a more stable income if that's what he wants to do. So that's something he can choose to do. You don't, just because he's got an income that is fluctuating doesn't mean that you have to keep it that way. Okay. And by the way, various different professions are the same exact way, where you have certain professions that, construction workers, right? Construction workers in Pennsylvania do not work all year round. Most of them don't. Some of them have figured out, like, hold on a second, I can do inside remodeling jobs during the winter. The weather doesn't determine whether or not I work. My attitude determines whether or not I work. And so, anyway, so he can choose to stay in that field, or he can choose to advance himself. You could also choose to help fill in the blanks, wherever it is that the blank is, however much money, a couple $100s a month. There's always something that someone can do online, or, you know, cleaning someone's house or babysitting or whatever. There's always something that can be done to fill in the gap if there is a gap. So anyway, that's a side thing. But what I can tell you that successful contractors do that have some kind of a business that is just seasonal, and same with my business. My business is you know, we have months that are just insanely high, and then we have months that are not insanely high. And why? It all depends on our event schedule. So if we're doing events every 4 to 8 weeks, we have a month where there is no event. That obviously impacts our income that's coming in the door. You know what I'm saying? So that's a monthly difference. But what you do is you force yourself to live off of 70% of your income. And then with the other 30%, 10% needs to go to helping those who cannot help themselves. Number 2, savings. Another 10% to savings. Number 3, towards debt, if you guys have any debt. Once your debt is gone, then you can choose to take that 10% and put it towards wealth, learning how to become investors. So on that 70%, that you want to make it off of the lowest week budget, all right? Whatever that is, it's $500, it's $200, I don't know what it is. But you pull 30% out and you put it in different places, and then you take that other 70% and you guys force yourself to live off of that. So when you have a high week, right? You have a week, it could be even double, I'm sure, or at least 20, 30, 50% more than the bad week. Then that is all the more that is going into savings. That's all the more that's going into perhaps to invest into something. And so therefore, you know that your needs are being met off of the lowest week. And that means the other weeks are gravy weeks. That means more is going towards your future. That means more is going to savings. Savings being like if the car breaks down, if there's some medical need, if he loses his job, and you know you now have a few months worth of income saved while he finds the next job. So that's a good place to start. I don't know if you have this book or not, Molly. Do you have First Steps to Wealth?
No, I don't.
Oh, honey, I'd love to give you a free copy. You want a free copy?
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, write this phone number down. It's 866-760-8255. Are you getting the daily fix every day?
No. I'm
No.
not.
Okay, cool. Call the office right now. They're waiting to hear from you. And get a copy of First Steps to Wealth and ask them for the daily fix, okay? You pay the shipping to get the book to your house. The book is yours. It's free. Read it. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Here's a crazy thought. Could McDonald's fix the money problems in your marriage? Find out what Dani has to say about it next on The Dani Johnson Show.
You want to succeed, right? But you do not want to fail God at the same time. There is a way to succeed from a biblical perspective, and it's far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Over 500 scriptures I studied to study money, everything that the Bible said about money. That's in the first couple chapters of Spirit-Driven Success. Not to mention leadership, working with people, growing a career, being used mightily in the marketplace, which is where Abraham, God used him in the marketplace. And Joseph, God used him in the marketplace. Moses, God used him in the marketplace. Daniel, Solomon, really all of the greats of faith, most of the greats of faith throughout the Bible, they all were in the marketplace, and God wants to show you how you can be used mightily by him in the marketplace. Right here, Spirit-Driven Success is where all of my notes are on how you can do that. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Spirit-Driven Success today.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First Steps to Success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was working 60 to 75 hours a week. I was completely stressed out. I was incredibly angry with my husband. We were in over $350,000 worth of debt. By applying the strategies that Dani teaches, in the last 3.5 years, we have paid off $170,000 in debt. We are no longer roommates, and we no longer spend every single cent that we make. We now have made tens of thousands of dollars in passive income in investments. We are on the right track. We're traveling around the world together, and we are building homes for those who really need it. So I don't know about you, but if you want to cut back from 60 to 20 and 30 hours a week, if you want to mend some relationships, if you want to make your life more efficient and a lot more fun, and you want to be the best version of you, I highly recommend that you get registered because your life is about to change.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, first steps to success in creating dynasty, my wife and I were really lost. We were struggling in a relationship. We were struggling financially, drowning in debt. Our relationship was really broken. We were in a bad place. We were living in two completely different states and not really honoring each other. Once we got plugged into the community, we noticed a shift in our lives. Most importantly, we came together as a husband and wife. That was the first thing we did. And when we finally came together under the same roof, things started to change. Over the past 3 years, we've been able to pay off over $495,000 in debt. I know in my business, I've had a job created for me that increased my income by 50%. That has actually opened up the door to allow my wife and I to spend more time with each other. So I don't know where you are. I don't know if your relationship is super awesome. I don't know if your job is immaculate. I don't know if you're debt-free. But what I do know is if you're not any one of those things, your next step is to get plugged into DaniJohnson.com, go on the website, get plugged into the community. I promise you, your life will never be the same.
And prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was a broke college student, drowning in debt, and I felt like the world was crashing all around me, and I had bad relationships. Since plugging into DaniJohnson.com and first steps to success, I was able to pay off $6,600 in 4 months. Now I'm able to give 10% of my income to wherever my heart desires. I actually, using the skills that I learned from Dani, I actually landed a job before I graduated college, and I'm able to travel the world. All I know is if you're serious about annihilating your debt, traveling the world, helping people, and having fun doing so, I highly recommend you get registered for the next first steps to success. Do it now, don't wait, don't even thinking about it. If you're ready to change your life, just do it.
We went to our first ever First Steps to Success just 10 weeks ago, and it has definitely been life-changing ever since.
We felt like we got hit by a 2x4, but it was the best 2x4 because what we realized is that our priorities were clearly out of line. I had been building a home-based business and had been working 80 to 100 hours, and I realized that that is not my role and that I had actually taken my husband's, and it was that realization that something had to change, and we immediately went home and changed everything. There was no hesitation. We said, you know what, we need to be obedient to God.
And we've implemented the tools day one. We started implementing what Dani taught us, invested in ourselves, invested in our kids, got our priorities in line. We've now actually paid off just not quite $60,000 in debt and looking at a couple more investments here as head of the household.
It's been absolutely incredible. So I just encourage you, if any of this speaks to you, if you're wanting to get out of debt, if you're wanting better communication, if you're wanting to elevate to the higher level of life, get to First Steps to Success and plug into DaniJohnson.com.
What multimillionaire do you know that volunteers their time to help ordinary people like you and me? There's only one. And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Do you have a plan? Most people don't. Do you have a financial plan? I'm not talking about with financial planners. I'm talking about a monthly, weekly, daily financial plan. You see, a man without a vision will perish, and most people do not have a financial vision, which is why most people's finances are perishing. Here's a great quote that my coworker Mary Howard found. Orison Swett Martin, don't know who that is, but here's the quote. She knows who it is. A good system shortens the road to the goal. So true! Isn't that so true? A good system shortens the road to the goal. You know, I've had a tendency throughout my life where I have spent way too much time going the long way around to get to a goal. But when I've implemented systems This is the success of McDonald's. This is the success of all those franchises, is systems help you to duplicate and help you to multiply your finances. And I have found that, my husband and I have completely found that to be absolutely true. So you must have a plan, and you must have one together. Yes, together. You're a team. If you're married, it's a team effort. And as a team, you can plan together. You can choose not to fight, but you can choose to let the other person express their feelings and opinions about the finances and hear them thoroughly. And you also have the freedom to express your opinions and your feelings. They're only opinions, they're only feelings. It doesn't mean that if they're not the same, that you're against each other. No, it means that you're perfect. You both have different perspectives. You both have different feelings. You both have different opinions. You're supposed to have different opinions and feelings about these things. And as you learn to communicate with each other, which we teach a lot at First Steps to Success, our training seminar, 3 days, overhaul, especially for your relationships and your finances and your career, for you to come together and learn how to be able to work together in this area. So we asked the question on Facebook. We have some faithful listeners and watchers of the Dani Johnson Show that are participating today and giving us either their advice or what isn't working in their finance and marriage relationship. I've got Tracy Nichols from Macomb, Georgia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dani. How are you doing?
Very good. So, how do you and your spouse work it with money?
We don't. We don't. I just came back from Chicago because I had to visit my mom for 3 weeks, and I've been telling him, I was like, honey, we make good money. We've been traveling the world since, I think 2010, and I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. I mean, and sometimes I think I'm going to actually tell you how much money we make, and then I probably won't be embarrassed because I'm telling him anytime that you're able to make the money we make. We went to Alaska 3 months, we made $50,000. The next month, we made $25,000. But then to look at our bank account, it doesn't show that. And I was telling my husband, I was like, how much did you, when I was in Chicago, did you put 10% up on your check? Because he took a job at the dealership here in Macon. I didn't have the money. And I was like, is it because I wasn't raised about money? He wasn't raised about money.
Yes.
And all his life, I said, you've probably been saying this all your life. I just don't have the money, but you do because you allocated. You buy food from restaurants for lunch at the dealership at night. You're so tired. So we do have the money. Yeah. And I told him yesterday, I was like, listen, sweetie, I'm almost 50. You almost 50. And if something happens in our life, if somebody gets sick, somebody dies, somebody loses a job, we don't have the finances. And that's not cute.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Cute at all.
Girlfriend, it ain't cute. It ain't sexy. It ain't nothing.
So I was like, we need a system. Honestly, we don't, because we wasn't raised. And like I tell people, it's nothing to be embarrassed about if you weren't raised.
That's right.
Don't worry about what other people think about you. Seek help.
That's
Just be
right.
honest. Like,
That's
listen,
right.
I was raised. I don't know what I'm doing with all this money, and I need help. And that's where I'm at, with that. Like, listen, I need help. I need a plan. I need some kind of structure when it comes to my money.
Yes, you're right. You're right, girlfriend.
I told them I was in a car accident, Super Bowl night in Jacksonville. We were paying $600 on a Lexus, and I was like, okay, we totaled the Lexus out. We bought a cash car. That was the smartest thing he did in a while. He bought a 2000-something cash vehicle, but I was like, since we don't have $600 car payment, that money should be in the bank.
Yes.
Like hearing, I don't have it. We have it. We just don't know what to do with it.
No. You are doing something with it. You're spending it all. And I got to tell you something, Tracy. Number one, I am so proud of you that you are being transparent with me right now. I'm so proud of you that there is a big problem here.
Huge problem.
And the sad thing is it takes us to get to almost 50 before we go, it takes a car accident before we go, we can't keep doing the same darn thing that we're doing. We have to fix this. And you're right. And you do need a plan. I'm going to give you a plan. But Tracy, you cannot fix your husband's spending. You can only fix yours. You are in charge of what your outgo is. So I want you to look at how much you spent today. where you spent it. Today, it's okay. You can wipe the sweat from your brow. I want you to look at how much you spent yesterday. Quit looking at him.
Okay.
And start looking at you. You hear me?
I hear you.
I have another friend from North Carolina. Her name is Tammy. And Tammy, I did some business consulting and coaching with her years ago, 2008. And she would get on the call with me, and the first 5 minutes she would just gripe about her husband and how she can't pay off debt because he wouldn't come to the table on the whole thing. And I said, girlfriend, if you want to gripe about your husband, I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to let you go. I'm going to refund the giant amount of money that you paid to hire me to help you with your finances and your business, and you're fired. She's like, what? I said, yes. We're not here to talk about Henry. We're here to talk about you. And I'm to coach you on being a champion financially. And Henry has nothing to do with your personal performance. He has nothing to do with your personal spending. Do you know what happened? In the next 2 years, she paid off $138,000 worth of debt without her husband. Without her husband. Are you hearing me?
I hear you loud and clear.
So you have to stop looking at him. You're not his mother. You ain't his mama. You're his wife, which means his sexy girlfriend. That's what you're supposed to be. Whining to him about money, correcting about how he's spending it, telling him that was the smartest thing you did in a long time by paying cash for a car, but that $600 a month needs to be in the bank. Dude, don't you see this? We are in trouble if we keep doing this. Okay, you are not his mom. Be his girlfriend. Be his partner in the bedroom. But don't be his mother and don't be his boss. It's exhausting for you. It's horrifyingly emasculating for him. He already has a mom. But what I want you to do is I want you to commit to being a champion financially. And with your example, it is going to change his life by your example, not by your mouth, but by your results. I had a woman years ago. Her name is Joanne Harvey. She's from Redding, California. Amazing, amazing story. We were doing a first steps to success. I'm running out of time. We have to take a short break. We're doing a first steps. She gets up to give a testimony about debt, but her husband was sitting down. You have to hear what happened next. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Be sure to tell a friend about the Dani Johnson Show. It just might be the key to the breakthrough they need.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success. Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what families are dealing with in the poverty-stricken village of Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic food, water, and housing needs. We are transforming that village. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation to Santa Pancha. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org. Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. The most common question I get usually are from people who are trying to juggle their life. They've got kids who are involved in all kinds of activities. They've got business or their job, finances, trying to get out of debt, plus all their church activities and all the volunteer activities, and they're pulling their hair out going, how do I juggle this all? Man, I once lived just like that until I learned Time Secrets. Time Secrets showed me how to be able to cut my hours from 100 hours a week that I was working down to 20 hours a week and tripled my income as a direct result with what I learned. Time Secrets also showed me how to get my priorities in order, which healed up my marriage. And I became a mother that I was proud of versus becoming the mother I didn't want to be. And so if you feel like your world is running around in all kinds of different circles, you can fix that. Call 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880 for Time Secrets.
Did you know you can take the Dani Johnson Show with you wherever you go? It's never been easier to stay up to date with the latest content from Dani with the DaniJohnson.com app. Watch or listen in the car, at the gym, or on the go. Download it now from the App Store and Google Play and never miss a show again. Your family, business, and bank account will thank you. It's time to take on a whole new mindset. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
So there is Joanne Harvey. She's standing with a microphone in her hand on stage. Her husband is sitting down. The topic is debt testimonials. He's looking at her perplexed. He doesn't know why she's standing up there on stage. She gets the microphone and she says, "My husband does not know this, but I learned Dani Johnson's system, War on Debt, a few years ago. He does not know that I applied it. And I've paid off $20,000 worth of debt, honey, without you knowing." He started bawling. He looked like he had won the lottery. She said, and also those 3 cars that we have purchased, we paid cash for every single one of them. And honey, we also have $20,000 in cash in the bank, and we no longer have any debt at all. Now, Tracy, how you must know that he came to the table financially after that. Right? You would have to know it. Because the reality is that when the wife steps out to help, to do her part, God has convicted you, Tracy, hasn't convicted your husband. So that means you walk in the conviction. It's time for you to learn how to pay off the debt, to learn how to start to create wealth. It's time for you to learn how to budget the money. It's time for you to learn how to make sure that that giving is consistent with what you make, to make sure that you're cutting back on things that are just silly. It's important for you to print out the bank account, to look at where all the money is going, where you personally have spent it, not where he has, because you're only responsible for you. And as you do this and you get diligent with that, and you do the things that I talk about in War on Debt, which you can find on our website. You can find all kinds of videos on it. Also, the book, First Steps to Wealth, has 2 chapters of War on Debt in here. When you attack it, then there's going to be unity because he sees results. You don't need him to help you in this matter. You don't need him to agree with you in this matter. You can just go and attack it as a special surprise for him. And the greatest gift, I think, not the greatest, but of the greatest gifts that a wife can give their husband is to go pay off some debt and to let him know and say, thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for providing the way that you do. Thank you for being my partner. And as a thank you, I've paid off $100,000 worth of debt. We now have $50,000 in our bank account. We now are able that if something was to happen to either one of us, we're a bit more solid and stable. And I did this to say thank you and to just relieve you of any pressure that I could have been putting upon you. And I'm going to continue to work in that way. That's a gift that a wife can give her husband. Hey, this is Dani Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you learned something. We hope that you gathered some kind of a nugget, some strategy, decided to embrace a brand new skill to be able to help you and your family financially. We'd love to hear from you. If you go to DaniJohnson.com, get a copy, your free copy of First Steps to Wealth, as well as the Daily Fix. And join us tomorrow with another topic, some more content that might challenge you and especially help you to move your life forward into success. God bless. Have a great night.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DaniJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been the Dani Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always wanted.